Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Sunday Coffees Edition episode of the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejohn Sarowick. Sejohn?
I am so loopy. It is 8 a.m. Mormon time. And I gotta tell you, Dev, I fucking hate daylight savings time with a passion.
I was gonna say, just think, yesterday at this time, it was 9 a.m. Mormon time.
I forgot, didn't know, didn't even occur to me that this was gonna be daylight savings time today. On top of that, I also kind of didn't get the message that we wanted to meet an hour later than originally planned. So I have literally been sitting at my computer since 5 o'clock this morning.
Well, all right, so behind the curtain, the reason I needed to get it delayed, and the reason that it's a Sunday coffee episode of the Say Report, is because tomorrow's my mother's birthday, so I had to rendezvous with somebody at 9 in order to pick up her gift.
Ooh.
So I was being a good son, but a bad podcasting partner. Apologies.
No, it's fine. You sent the message. You did all the right things. I missed the memo that we were starting an hour later, which any other day would have been fine. You know, an hour break for me to get another cup of coffee and do my business. But I literally set an alarm on a clock that one of the few non-internet connected items in my house.
Nice.
So it did not reset when the clock reset last night. So it went off at 5 or 4:30 this morning, thinking it was 5:30 this morning. I then sat there in bed thinking I should really go. I don't want to be the asshole. I don't want to be the one that's late. And then got together, sat down at my computer, and my computer was like, "Hey, dum-dum, it's 5 a.m." And I was like, "What? What do you mean 5 a.m.?" I looked at my phone, and it was like, "It's 5 a.m." And I'm like, "You're all full of shit." Every single one of you. You're all lying to me. 2020 is just throwing me for a loop, man. But yeah, I don't know. You know what it is like, when's the last time that daylight savings time fell directly on like the 1st of November? Am I crazy? Is that like something that always happens?
That's the problem. That's why everybody's so upset that COVID happened, because this was going to be the perfect Halloween. Just by every measurable metric, this was the perfect Halloween. It was a Saturday Halloween, which meant you could have your Halloween party on Halloween and people would be able to attend. It's not one of these, oh, we're having it on the 26th because Halloween's on a Tuesday. Like, yeah, no, you're right. You should have it beforehand. If you have it afterwards, then you're just the weirdo. You're having a harvest party. And who goes to a harvest party? Secondly, it was a blue moon. So, which means it was a full moon. And it was the first time that it was a full moon everywhere. Like, sometimes a full moon falls, but because of how the northern hemisphere works, you don't get to see the full circle everywhere. It's like the first time that's happened since 1946. And I don't know if you've noticed, you do way more Hallow watching than I do, but everything that you watch, every Halloween special always has a full moon.
Right.
But very rarely do you get the full moon Halloween. And thus, another perfect thing about the 2020 Halloween. And then the final thing is that it was daylight savings time. So if you were out at a party, you basically were gifted an extra hour to party, or if you were going to leave at 12 anyway, gifted an extra hour to recover from the partying the night before.
Man.
Perfect Halloween, just ruined by COVID-19.
I think this is just further proof that we just have to kind of redo this year next year, including the moon cycles. Get on that moon.
Yeah.
We have to completely do 2020. Not least of which because then it will also give legitimacy to them being able to release Sonic and Mario at the 2020 Olympic Games.
I mean, I have my copy of Sonic and Mario at the 2020 Olympic Games, and I don't want to open it because, like, it's this weird relic of a thing that never occurred.
Man. Oh, so
okay, before we go further though, because I wanted to address something. And there's so many things to talk about. I'm very excited for this episode. But if you've been listening to the Stay Report, you got two movie ones. You got our Darkman. Hope you enjoyed that. Love Darkman. And you got our scary movie. And it's very rare that we have an errors, omissions, correction moment on the Stay Report. But we need to have one on Scary Movie. Because I feel like a total dickhead And that is because both of us, Sejohn and I, referred to Regina Hall as Regina King.
Oh, shit. Is that okay?
Which, first of all, that's just awful. That's just an awful thing to have happened. I know why I did it. It's twofold. Well, it's threefold. Fold one is my notes for Scary Movie, because I'm the guy who took notes while watching Scary Movie, completely left them at work. Because I had brought them with me to go over before we recorded, and then I just left them at work, and I'm like, I can remember these. And then there I specifically wrote Hall, not King. And the reason I wrote specifically Hall, not King is because in Black Monday Season 2, there is an episode where they go visit a country club, and Regina Hall's character is treated like a queen by all of the white people who are at the country club. And at the end of it, she asks a waiter, who does everybody think I am? And he goes, Regina King. And that's just funny on every level.
Yeah, no, Regina Hall. I fucking love Regina Hall.
Yeah, I love Regina Hall. Yeah.
She just had a fantastic role in this movie that I feel like nobody saw, called Little, that came out last year.
Fantastic.
Little was super fun. But the big thing about it is it stars the girl from and she produced, I think, the youngest girl from Blackish.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this huge thing that like this young girl who was in this position to be able to do this, and it's this very awesome like feminist comedy and Regina Hall in it is fucking hilarious as the bitch boss
who gets de-aged.
Who then
right?
gets de-aged. Yeah, she plays the older version that gets de-aged. But she has so much work to do in that movie because she has to do the before and after, which we've talked before in the past. I think like 17 again and stuff like that. Like we've talked about the idea that you need to set up this character and then like you have to completely do the 180 at the end with none of the work in between. And she's fucking fabulous in that movie. In that role. But I mean, like, yeah, the Scary Movie franchise, which I mean, we talked about Anna Faris being in those movies, but like she's in at least 3 or 4 of them herself, right? Am I misremembering
She's at least in the first 2. I don't remember past that because unfortunately Charlie Sheen and Leslie Nielsen kind of take over in Scary Movie 3.
Right.
And also Anthony Anderson. Like Anthony Anderson is it really does feel like token casting, which is very strange considering the first 2 Scary Movies. But I don't know if she makes it to the third one.
She does. She makes it to 3 and 4. I'm just checking now.
Oh, so she's
I wasn't crazy.
So her and Anna Faris are the ones who are in those 4 movies.
Yes.
That's incredible. I didn't realize that. And then Ashley Tisdale comes in for 5. We didn't shout out Ashley Tisdale. And that's just strange to me. And also, Scary Movie 6 is scheduled to come out next year. So it's relevant, even though we hated it. I'm just going to say that. But I did want to apologize. But the third reason that I said Regina King instead of Regina Hall is I've been watching Watchmen, the TV series, for the first time ever. I am 6 episodes in. I have 3 episodes left.
And that is Regina King.
And that is Regina King.
It was fucking awesome. But
and she's kicking ass. And so it's just one of those things where not only am I consuming pieces of entertainment that feature both of them, one of them is lampshading the fact that everybody gets them confused. So, well, there you go. So just apologies before we dive into this episode proper, because I felt really bad. And even afterwards, I'm like, I think we got it right, but then I re-listened and we didn't. So apologies to Regina Hall for calling you Regina King, and apologies to Regina King for miscrediting you as being someone involved in Scary Movie, especially because we were so down on it.
Yeah, well, and it won't be the last time we talk about Regina Hall, because I have for years wanted us to talk about the Death at a Funeral duo films, and she is one of the, if I'm remembering correctly, now I'm worried I'm not remembering correctly, but I'm pretty sure she plays the wife in the Neil LaBute version with Chris Rock, and if that's the case, yeah, just more fantastic work by her. I'm with you, man.
All right, excellent. But yeah, there's just the thoughts that I had on that. So now, episode proper. Yeah, Super Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games 2020. That's weird. And what's weirder is that I bet next year, if there's an Olympics, which that's just terrifying to say, if there's an Olympics, but Here's some Devon stuff I haven't mentioned because I wasn't going to mention it until after it happened. I bought Dale tickets to see Fortune Feimster for her birthday last year, and that show was supposed to happen on March 7th, and it was canceled because of the start of the coronavirus and COVID-19.
Right.
And it was rescheduled to November. It was pushed all the way to November. And then I got an email this past week telling me that it has been rescheduled yet again to Dale's birthday 2021. Hey. So a birthday gift that I bought my sister in 2019, she's now not going to get until 2021. But the important thing about that is that's something being rescheduled for September of 2021. And I wasn't ready for November in quarantine for a myriad of reasons that we're going to touch on in this episode, let alone the fact that they're saying we're going to be we can't schedule things until at least a year out. Like, it's terrifying. Yeah, it's disheartening.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you guys are going to get to do a redo on it, though. There's a ton of stuff this year that kind of fell to the wayside for us. I was supposed to see AJR this summer, and that would have been a hell of a fun show to talk about. We haven't gotten to talk a lot of music this year because, one of the big things that, really kind of got swept under the rug with everything that's going on is, all of these, music acts that just haven't been able to, tour. And depending on who they are, they may not necessarily be set up to really talk to their fans in any real way, because I'm thinking specifically, there's been this really kind of cute ongoing back and forth with Dave Grohl and a young fan of his on the internet. And if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, look up the drum war that he's been having, because it's cute as shit. And the younger fan that he's been working with, I can't remember her name right now, but she is fucking phenomenal and will be somebody to keep an eye on for years to come. But it has kind of led Dave Grohl to it was a really nice stepping stone for him to start going into some online stuff, to the point where just yesterday a Foo Fighters channel started up recently, and he put up a coffee review vid or some I think it was a coffee maker review vid. That's the kind of weird shit that he's doing to talk to fans right now, right? And it's been really cool, getting to see him do that. The other person I'm thinking about is Jack Black has really kind of blown up with his online stuff recently, and then was able to use the online video gaming stuff that he's been doing this year with his kids. He was able to then turn that into a really cool online thing with Tenacious D for Halloween, and they actually did a socially distanced version of the Time Warp with that is a really cool video, right? But these are two dudes that have always been very kind of front-facing with their fans and been able to get out there, and it's even taken them kind of a while to really kind of find their footing in this place. A lot of music dudes, I think the other big one this year that we didn't talk much about, but was been rocking it out, is Rick Astley has done a phenomenal job this year, creating an online presence to speak to fans, and it's funny to say, but it's actually pretty baller. He put up a friggin' Post Malone cover a couple of months ago that was number one on YouTube Music for a while.
Well, the funny thing about that is that Rick Astley has always been front facing on the internet because of Rickrolling and the fact that he's baked into the DNA of the modern internet. And what it really just feels like is, with nowhere else to go, people just kind of realize that he's been there. So rather than just it being the fans who are getting the glory of Rick Astley every day on the internet, everybody gets to enjoy. And I absolutely love that. I do love that. Something that I have been aware of for years, mostly because of Will. Because Will, our third musketeer, he has seen Rick Astley in concert. I'm super jealous of Will for having seen Rick Astley in concert. Awesome. As much as I will say I am a Rick Astley fan, and I am a Rick Astley fan, I am credited by people, oh yeah, that's right, this fucking happened, and I wanted to share it because my heart sank earlier this morning. We'll get there. I was credited by some people with the first Rickroll in Rhode Island because I went to a karaoke birthday party that became an annual thing. I want to say in 2006. And I sang that song because I freaking love Never Gonna Give You Up. It has always been a song that I have loved. It was not inspired by it becoming a internet language video joke.
Yeah.
And I did it, and everybody loved it. And then, like, years later, they're like, he rickrolled us before it was even a thing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that, like, I didn't even know it was a thing. And then Will, we were hanging out, driving around the country, God, 5 years ago at this point, and he told me stories of seeing Rick Astley in concert while we were doing it. And I gotta tell you, the jealousy, it was kind of hard to keep the car on the road and not just drive it into a phone pole. Like, you son of a bitch!
Oh man, yeah, man, yeah, but unfortunately, like, I feel like that is like the handful of music artists that have been able to really kind of use their entertainment like abilities in this current situation we're in is very limited, and part of that is because it's just not their speed. It's just not the kind of like entertainment that they provide. You know, like it. Part of it is also though that they're not set up for it, right? And so there's this weird thing where like these guys are used to being on the road all year for years at a time. You know, you think about these bands and you always wonder like where, I haven't heard from them for the last couple of years, where they've been at. They've been touring, like that's what they've been doing, right? And like they've been making their money. They're just on the road, and then they all got sent home at the beginning of this year with like entire plans just blown up. And so like being able to be prepped for stuff in the future is important to them. So like it's a weird thing that we've got to figure out is how we're going to start supporting those kinds of artists that we love again.
I think it also,
it's not easy though.
Yeah, it's not. But I think what we also need to consider is the fact that up until recently, and I will honestly say up until about this past week that we're sort of reporting on in this episode, everybody kind of thought that this wasn't something you needed to make long-term plans for.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the thing as well. Like, these artists, I'm sure that they were, like, probably putting ideas together and on paper, but thinking, you know, by the end of 2020, we're going to be able to go out and we're going to be able to perform again, and we're not going to have to change how we're doing, right? This is just, like, this beautiful moment that it's like a gift to us because we get to refine what we're doing, maybe come up with some new stuff. And then, like, at the end of it, you realize, oh, no, we actually do need to adapt to entertaining in this landscape. Yeah. And there were some people who did that right off the bat, and now other people are realizing this is what we have to do, and that's why we're seeing more and more of it. And that's also very disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is like, you know, they're not the end all be all savior of music, but like one of the things that's really helped me at least keep in touch is the move from Google Play and the Play Store and all that stuff and Google Music, kind of just basically just becoming YouTube Music like it's always been, and YouTube having its algorithm stuff in place has really elevated that service for me because with the way in which YouTube already kind of knew what I was into, combined with the library that Google had access to, has made for some actually really cool experiences over the last few weeks of like discovering new music. Ever since Google dropped their whole Play moniker and it just became like the Google, like, I forget what they call it, the Google experience essentially. But yeah, so now YouTube Music which has been a thing for a while, but it got a real kick in the ass when it basically combined with the Google service stuff. And now I will say that unlike Spotify, that's really good at discovering new music for me, and I think that's where Spotify really shines for me. YouTube is really good at like finding more of what I like, because it just knows me better. I mean, you know, let's face it, we've all had an online presence that Google has been aware of for over a decade at this point. You know, so I have come to terms with the fact that ever since I've had a MySpace, like the internet has been keeping track of me, and that is what it is. But yeah, man, I am very lucky in that regard that is a thing that I've been able to find because it's been able to keep me as a fan involved in stuff. I mean, without YouTube Music, I would not have gotten into the Rick Astley stuff as much as possible. I wouldn't have known what was going on with Dave Grohl. I also wouldn't have known like some of these smaller artists, which is the other big thing that's really kind of a kick in the nuts, is like these guys that weren't established before this year. So like you have guys that had like albums dropping this year, like JoJo and Joja, sorry, and Oliver Tree, like these guys that were only online presence before, and then this was going to be the year where they were going to kind of try and break out of that, and then this kind of came along, was like put them back in their place. We're like, nope, you're just gonna stay just like YouTube shit for right now. You know, like we're not gonna let you we're not gonna let you kind of stretch your legs in the real world just yet. And for some of those guys, maybe that was a good thing to get, like you said, giving them time to really kind of refine what it is that they want to be when they're not online, when they're not on a YouTube channel. And for other guys, like, I can imagine that they don't go any further than this now, because this was the year where all the money was in place for them to like move around and get out and tour and meet fans in real life for the first time, and that's just not going to happen. You know, like the number of conferences and shit that got canceled this year, the number of concerts that got canceled this year, all of these places where these conventions where like people get to meet each other, like it just didn't happen. And we haven't really like thought about what that's going to mean yet, and we kind of have to, because like you're saying, we just realized this week that like this shit ain't over yet, and it's not gonna be for a while.
Yeah, which is super like it's just hard to hear. It's not hard to hear, right? It's something that like we've been dealing with, that disappointment of it's still going on, it's not over yet, right? It's still happening. But like now it's one of those things where okay, our estimates were way off.
Yeah, I mean, and like we should say that like this is not new information to us. I mean, I guess I can't speak for you, Dev, but like the idea that this is not over yet and that this is going to be something we're going to deal with for a while is something that like people have been saying. Just the problem is that a lot of other people have not wanted to buy into that.
Yeah, they haven't wanted to accept it. No, trust me, I don't see any end in sight for this. I have never been thinking of that oracle day where I can step out into the sunshine and feel the sun on my full face, not just my eyes and above. Yeah. But it's one of those situations where everything else that I was seeing, all of the industries that would kind of have to grind to a halt in order for that day to come, were like, no, we'll be open in 2 weeks. No, we'll be open by the end of the summer. And now to see those people saying, we're not going to be open for like a year, is really like, all right, good. I'm glad that we all seem to have caught on. Yeah. Like, I mean, especially when you hear like Broadway has been dark, and that's insane that Broadway is dark. But then when they announced that there's probably not going to be Broadway until after August of 2021, that was like, yeah, okay, damn. Like,
yeah, man. I mean, but then, you know, that the ripple effect of that is something I can't even begin to fathom, because it honestly will give me a friggin' panic attack.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that like you also need to manage how deeply you're engaging with, for all intents and purposes, the fear of our future. Like, yeah. And so like when you do sit down and just let it all crash upon you, that's very hard.
Right, but that's where that's where like the kind of entertainment side of the world kind of comes into play, and always has, right? Like it's the escapism of these entertainments that are important. So like we need to, part of this actually kind of leads to another thing that I wanted to just mention this week, but like we all need to learn to take a chill pill and give these things like time to figure their shit out. So like things when like CD Projekt Red comes out and is like, look, we're going to take an extra month on our game to like figure something out, like we probably shouldn't start sending them death threats, right? like this stuff is going to be so important to us surviving this shit that how about we don't attack the industries that are like trying to help us like stay sane in all of this, right? So when Broadway is going to go dark for a year, and like, you know, if those people start saying like, hey, so we're not going to work for like a year and a half, we need some form of help in some way, whether that's a UBI or there's unemployment benefits extended in some fashion, like instead of like shouting that stuff down, we may want to start like paying attention to that sort of shit, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's we need to, now that people are saying, and it's not like we're not the people in charge of this, right? But we have a very important thing that we're probably going to end the show talking about that is related to this. We need to realize that now that people are being honest and saying we're not going to be able to recover in the way that you want us to for like 10 months to a year, We need to understand what that means, not just for us as the consumer of said entertainment, but for them as the creators behind it. And that's hard. It's especially hard to put yourself into the shoes of another person while you are also in the shit, right? Yeah. I don't want to trade my shitty shoes for another pair of shitty shoes.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Escapism is a hard thing. And I'm glad that you bring up escapism, because shows have started up again. Like, ABC started its fall sitcoms, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how fucking awful The Conners has been. And I don't mean in terms of, like, The Conners and Roseanne, its predecessor, has always not been an escape. The reason why Roseanne became popular was because it allowed us to find comedy in the things that everybody was sort of experiencing. You weren't watching a group of 20-somethings who were living in an apartment in New York that would probably be $1 million a year to live in.
Right.
You were watching a low-income family try to scrape by and live, and seeing how their love and affection for one another and the people around them, and the fact that they could laugh at just how shitty their situation was. That's what that show is about. So I'm not upset at all that the Conners have decided to set this third season during the pandemic. It does not bother me that that's what they're doing, because that is what Roseanne and the Conners have always done.
Right. Yeah. It's in the DNA of that show, for sure.
But what does bother me is how often they are outside of the house and not wearing masks. And I know that's such a ridiculous thing. And I also know, because I have a theater background, how important the face is to conveying emotion and acting. Like, the face is one of your major tools in being an actor. So I get that if you're going to obscure half of it, how difficult it would be. But then have them all stuck at home in the quarantine. And if,
I mean, are they addressing it at all, or are people calling them out on it? Like, is it just the characters that are not wearing masks, or is this a world in which masks are not being?
So it's if it were just a world where masks are not being worn, I think I could be okay with it. It's more the fact that Becky and Darlene went to go get jobs at Wellman Plastic, the company that Jackie and Roseanne worked at in the first season of Roseanne.
Right.
And they stood online, and it was outside, and it was all distance with cones, and everybody stand at a cone, and everybody had masks on, and Becky was in line, and then Darlene showed up, and then a guy comes and he goes, all right, we're taking a break from applicants, so you guys can just sit tight out here and that. And they both picked up their cones, moved them closer to each other, sat down, and then pulled their masks down. And I'm like, you guys are still out in the world. You're still surrounded by strangers. I know that you two live together and it's all about that stuff, but you could be potentially exposing yourselves. But, TV, for all the good that it does, normalizes negative behavior. We've talked about that before on the show.
Yeah.
So it just seems very strange that, oh, okay, well, we're just waiting here now. Let's pull our masks down, even though we had them on before.
And more importantly, TV normalizes all behavior, good or bad, right? So that's why it's such a big deal when people talk about, like, oh, this character is gay on this show, is because, like, yes, it normalizes that being a thing in people's world. So, like, why not take the initiative to normalize things like distancing and masks rather than going the other way? So it's not just that's upsetting, because they had the ability to do something that, again, has been in the show's DNA from the beginning, which is to take the fringe of society in America and make it the focus, make it normal, and they just to not do that is upsetting. That sucks. I know that Superstar. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, what is really, really upsetting is when they're working in the plastic company, they have the two masks. They have the visor and they have the face mask.
Right.
And it's like, so have them have the visor down, right?
Right.
or have them have the mask up. Like if the mask is going to be down, you have the visor. At least have the visor down. But they have both just out of the way, and it's like this is so strange. It's so strange that because like they're working in a. It's so weird. It like.
Who did the commercials a couple of weeks ago that got into a bunch of shit for that? Like Progressive or somebody did like a series of commercials where it was people in a back room at an electronics store, say, and they were all talking to each other, and every time they would talk, one of them would pull their mask down to talk and then put their mask back, and everybody online lost their shit because they're like, that's not the point. And this ad campaign that wasn't even about masks, they were just trying to be part of the zeitgeist by having masks on their characters. They were like, you've gone ahead and you've just basically made everybody think that this is okay. Every asshole that you see out there walking around with a mask under their nose now thinks that this is fine. Yeah, man, it's really upsetting. I was gonna say I haven't watched it yet. I'm curious if Superstore deals with this at all, because like that's another thing that another show that has the same kind of potential and kind of lives in that realm of like normalizing the idea of the fringe and stuff. I wonder how they're dealing with it. Have you watched it all?
No, so there's only been one episode of Superstore.
One episode. Okay.
And like even further than that, it is a continuation because their season 5 got cut short. The last episode of season 5 is California Part 1, and the season finale was going to be California Part 2, so that didn't happen.
This is like that weird. Superstore keeps getting stuck in this weird place when they like the
like
weird
the Olympics episode. Speaking of the Olympics, yeah, it's just this very strange thing. So I haven't watched it yet, but I imagine that it's going to be set in that past because I know that America Ferrara, she's done, and that she was not going to be in the 6th season at all. Yeah. But they have said that the first episode is going to resolve that storyline and why she's not there, which I find it hard to believe that it wouldn't be set in the past. Much like American Housewife, very like blatantly was like 4 months ago at the beginning of their season 5 premiere to let you know, it's not necessarily COVID times yet, so that's why we're not dealing with it. We're setting it 4 months ago for that reason. Man. I mean, sure, so 4 months ago, we were also wearing masks and everything, but it's nice. It's nice that, like, they're kind of trying to give you a reason why it's not going to be front and center.
It's disassociation, man. Like, it gives you just enough to think, oh, well, this isn't here and now. And that alone automatically means that they can kind of do whatever the hell they want, which is like a trick that TV shows have used forever. And like, so using it to get around some of the COVID stuff is okay. But as we said before, like these people are all in a position to normalize like what we're doing right now. And it would be really nice if somebody would step up to the damn plate.
I just trust me, I don't disagree. I feel so awkward every time somebody in the Connors pulls down their mask. Yeah. And it sucks because their Halloween episode was really good except for the stuff outside of the house. Like, it was DJ's daughter being all upset that she's not going to get to go trick-or-treating because it feels like everything's been taken away from her and she was looking forward to it. And then the day before Halloween, they canceled trick-or-treating in Langford. So then the family rallies together to give her a trick-or-treating experience inside of the Connor house, where like you're going to walk around and knock on all the doors in the house and there'll be people to give you candy or tricks or treats. And I'm like, that's really good. And that's really Roseanne, because Roseanne is known for those Halloween episodes. And all of that was great. And it kind of showed this way that, like, we understand that you're not going to get to have the Halloween you wanted to with your kids. Here's an alternative that might be fun.
Yeah, I mean, like that's awesome. I mean, we would also we should point out that it didn't come back in full yet, but South Park did put out a pandemic special, and I'm sure that they definitely did, in terms of like stepping up. Whether I necessarily agree with their politics all the time or not, they at least always are out there acknowledging what the conversation is, right? So there's that, and
there's also Borat 2.
Yeah,
which I don't. Borat's subsequent movie film, which I think is the official title now, as good as make gift of #1 porn monkey to Vice Premier Michael Pence, and then later make bribe of daughter to Vice Premier Michael Pence to return glorious status to nation of Kazakhstan. Like, those were great titles, but I think that we've all just kind of settled on Borat's subsequent movie film. not super bothered by it, especially if you've seen it. They changed the title of the movie like 3 times during the movie, so it's pretty good. But when that started, there was not a pandemic on. Like, by everything, they started shooting that in 2018. And just some of the stuff that he handles in that film regarding the virus is excellent. Have you seen it yet?
No, I have not gotten the opportunity to watch it yet, but you're not the first person that's pointed out the viral stuff to me, so I do want to check it out.
I want you to check it out before I talk about it, because I want your reaction to a thing that happens in the movie to be as undisturbed as possible. I want it to be as Sejohn as possible, because there's a moment in the movie that blew me away. There's also, I'm going to say this, and this, whatever, 98% of that movie is fucking excellent. It fumbles at the 1 yard line.
Oh.
And you'll see why, and it's oddly related to Scary Movie. So that's fun. That's going to be my hint to you as to how it fumbles right at the 1 yard line. Okay. Don't get me wrong, I still recommend that everybody watch it. I just wish that the one joke they went for at the end was not there. Because you talk about, and because Sacha Baron Cohen, he's a very intelligent person, and that's the reason why he's able to do things like this. And it's again, it's that satirizing and shining a spotlight on what is really out there in the world by having these characters like Ali G and Borat
and Bruno. Yeah.
Like, that's what he's able to do. So then you talk about South Park and maybe not agreeing necessarily with their politics, but what they did in that show, like, I didn't feel the same way as what they did at the end of the Borat movie in terms of just kind of insulting and oh my God, I can't believe you went there. Like, the South Park one, actually the final moment of it, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't disagree that if that happened, it would happen. You've seen the South Park one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No, Mr. Garrison destroying the possible vaccine for COVID-19, that totally makes sense in the whole ideals of how they view the presidency right now, and the fact that Trump is feeling sort of empowered by what's going on.
Yeah. Weirdly. Yes. Yeah, man. And that's what I mean is, like, I wish that we could have somebody more like the Connors doing this, because while guys like, Sacha Baron Cohen and Matt and Trey with South Park like doing their thing, they already live on the edge, and them like getting out there and being kind of to the point, fuck who cares, fuck what you think about it, is not new or surprising or gonna sway anybody that already, right? Whereas, like, you talk about like these sitcom shows on network, like, I would just love to see somebody at that level just put their damn foot down about something, and we've seen it in the past with them doing things like and introducing characters that are LGBTQ and stuff like that, and I don't know, man. It just sucks that we don't have that yet. And the problem is that with the way that things are going with the COVID, it's stopping production on anything that really, anybody that is willing to do that kind of work is also the person that knows right now is not the time to be working. You know what I mean? It kind of is this like double-edged sword, this like catch-22, is that the people that I think would be able to do this kind of work are also the exact people that are too respectful of one another to push people into a fucking production studio to make that product. So like it I don't know who's gonna do it, and I don't know how, but I need it. Like, I need some reprieve.
Yeah, it's the one that I'm kind of holding out hope for right now. Now, first of all, I'm gonna be just completely honest and say it kind of bothers me that what I use as escapism is focusing on the scariest thing that's going on in our world right now. Like, when I read some of the synopses of these fall premieres and saw that they were going to be taking place in a television world where COVID exists, I was a little about it. But now that I've seen some of the ones that have handled it, I'm kind of excited to see how NCIS New Orleans is going to handle it.
Okay.
Especially in terms of, like, New Orleans itself is kind of like a theme park all the time.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things is that they're going to be trying to help mitigate the insanity of the COVID-19 crisis in New Orleans as federal agents and everything like that. So I'm hoping that show, like, I hope that Donald P. Belisario, even though I think he just is a brain in a jar that's overseeing things, I don't think that he is actually on set with the shows anymore.
Right.
But he does seem like the kind of person who would have them in masks when they should be in masks. Does that make sense?
I mean, like, it's an easy taste of realism in a show that prides itself on being realistic till it's not, right? Like that was always the push with any of the
naval
cop
Belisario shows.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
like from Jag
the
forward.
cop shows,
yeah,
right. Like that idea that they are as real as they possibly can be until that moment when you look around and realize it's a fucking clown show. but like, yeah, man, I'll that'll be very interesting because that's going to hit a very specific type of audience too.
Yeah, that's why, because it's not like the Connors where I feel like I'm the super target demographic for. NCIS, my parents are more the target demo there. So I just and I can see those actors being the kind of actors who, like, I'll act in a face mask. I don't care. Like, I can do what I do without this. I don't know. It just that's the last one that I'm kind of holding out hope for like semi-normalizing how we should act about it. And that feels so weird to say, but it's how I feel. And yeah.
So where do you want to go next, Dev?
You know what? I want to just tell you about Corn Dilly.
Yeah.
Because I got... Corn Dilly is nothing. Corn Dilly has probably existed far longer than when it fell into my lap, but it's gotten weird traction in my house this week for 3 reasons. I'm all 3 reasons today, and I'm sorry about that. Reason number 1 is that the Super Mario blind bags of Lego figures came out, and Corn Dilly is one of the ones available. And Corn Dilly is a Super Mario World enemy. You first see it in Donut Plains 3. It's like the little fuzzy guy. It looks like an urchin. It's just like a little black gross thing.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know they were called Corn Dillies.
They're not called Corn Dillies. They have a different name. But
okay, I always think of the Soot Sprites from Totoro.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's the Miyazaki film that they're in, the little Soot Sprites.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
They have an actual name. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but the Super Mario World Kaizo community has called them Corn Dilly because there's a level in a hack, and I don't know it. I'm not real deep in that world, but there's a level in that hack where it's just about riding them, and it's called Corn Dilly, and the background music is da 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 da. So then some streamer, while he's playing it, just starts going Corn Dilly, dill dill dilly dilly corn. And I heard that, and it stuck in my head. But the reason it's gotten traction is that Pokemon Crown Tundra has come out.
Okay.
And in Pokemon Crown Tundra, there's a moment where you're in a loading screen, and it's got this like really bumping music that's going on, and you're in a loading screen because they have the whole dungeon adventures, and you're waiting and you can't match with friends. You can only match with strangers on the internet. So you wait on the internet for 3 strangers to join you so you can go hunting for legendary Pokemon. That's the whole deal. Right, and right. Sejohn, I was playing Super Mario 35, Dale's playing Pokemon, and her music is louder than my music because I don't need to hear dit 100 times while I'm playing Super Mario 35.
Yeah.
And no word of a lie, the music that plays in Crown Tundra is the loading screen song from HomestarRunner.com. So she's on this. So she's in that. She's trying to get everything set, and I'm just sitting there, and I start singing the loading screen song, and she got so mad at me for that. And it's like, oh, was this like Corn Dilly again? Because I had Corn Dilly stuck in my head one day, and I started singing Corn Dilly, and now Corn Dilly has been sung in my house a whole bunch because it's just like an earworm song. But that's it.
I mean, it's a meme. You're talking about a meme.
I'm talking about a meme, but I'm talking about a very specific community-driven meme, and a community that, like, I'm not even really a part of. Like, on one moment, I saw a video and a guy singing Corn Dilly, and it stuck with me.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I haven't gotten a Corn Dilly Mario guy yet. I have a Ghost, I have the Urchin, and I think it's a Flying Goomba, a Paragoomba. Those are their names.
You know, and maybe you can clear this up for me, but do you know the shittiest thing about the Super Mario Lego stuff?
No.
Super Mario is not there's not a minifig of Mario. You have to, like, build a Mario.
The Mario is a big built thing. There's no minifig of him. That's true.
And I can't find the Mario build anywhere.
Well, because you have to buy it as a set. It's not like a build.
No, that's
that set sold out. It was a $60 set, and we're all home in 2020, so everybody bought it. Like
exactly, the Mario set went so fast, and then like all of the boxes that you can buy for the Super Mario sets all have Mario like on it, like doing stuff, like the build on it, but then they all say does not contain build. It's like God damn it, like I don't want to buy any set that I can play with my Mario fig on, if not even fig, but my Mario build on, if I don't have the damn Mario build. It's like it's really putting a crimp in the whole, like, I was so excited when they said they were going to do Super Mario Legos. I was like, this is such a great thing. And now I've lost all interest in it because I can't get the stupid thing. It feels like that collector's thing that we talk about all the time, where it's like a very limited, like purposely limited to make it to make me want it more. And I don't get down on that.
No, I don't blame you for it. That's why these blind bag figures are great, because they're affordable. I think I got them for $3 a piece. And you know, I look at it and it's very much a Lego representation of a Boo that I have staring at me right now. And it was fun to build. And
yeah, like I was actually looking at the mystery ones the other day, and the only reason I didn't buy is because there's a chance that you'll get there's like one thing from Super Mario 3D World in it that's like the purple, like I can't even tell if it's a fish or something like that.
I have it. That's what I have. That's the Urchin. That's the sea Corn Dilly. I don't really have like a love for that thing, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna get that, and it won't be any fun. So yeah, I didn't. That's
buy
why
it.
you gotta buy two. You got to buy two, because hopefully you don't get two Urchins.
Yeah.
No, like it's weird. It's one of those things. I mean, I luckily, and if you can still find them out there, I don't know if they'd be like available on eBay or something like that. Connects was doing Super Mario figures, I want to say like 5 years ago, and that, first of all, Connect's minifigures, the blind bag minifigures, were the best. Don't at me, it's the truth. Because even though they were blind bags, they had an in-factory way to determine who was in each bag, which seems cheap and cheating, but people were able to suss out that code. Like, it's not like it was revealed from the factory. People bought them, and then looking at the bags, they determined what the code was to do it.
Yeah,
so it was cool. Okay. Like, it really felt like community building, finding video game stuff. And because of that, some Walmart that I went to, they had a wall full of the Mario blind bag figures, and they were clearanced out to 25 cents a bag. And when I looked on the back, it's because they were all Shy Guys. So I got a Shy Guy army for $5.
Nice.
And I'm not sad about that at all. Like,
very nice.
But I also have Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi. And like, those ones really triggered the whole, this is a minifigure of Mario. Connects had a really good thing, and I'm kind of sad that they lost the license, but I got everybody that I needed.
Yeah.
So I also think I have a Donkey Kong and a Diddy Kong. Like, that was a really good thing that Connects was a part of. So I would recommend, if you're looking for like a minifigure of Mario, you can probably find those online still. I would check it out. There's my Devon Decker time on Mario. But yeah, Corn Dilly, that's the thing that's just been in my head lately. And then the fact that he is front and center on the blind bag, I'm like, oh, I want to get him. Now I'm like, I'll buy him because there's a chance I get a Corn Dilly.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad that you cleared that up for me because I was very concerned when you started singing Corn Dilly at me when we started today.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, and I'm glad I did it. Sejohn, do you remember the name of the banquet hall that was on Coesit Avenue in Warwick that wasn't the Coesit Inn, but was a little bit further down?
Was it White's?
Maybe it was White's. I think it was
like
called the Ivy Garden the last time
maybe,
it was open and closed.
There was also the Da Vinci. No, what was the name of that one? That's just over the line in
that one.
Massachusetts.
That's the Venus de Milo. So not the Venus de Milo. Forget the Venus de Milo. It's this place. It's the place where I sang Rick Astley for the first time. Nice. For people. I think maybe the Coesit Garden or something like that. The something garden. I think it was called Ivy the last time that it was anything. I drove by it today during my errand this morning, and it's been paved over and replaced with a Dollar Tree. And I was very shaken by that.
Oh man!
And I wanted to share it. I know it's the local references and only get you local work, but like, I had a friend who lived on Country Lane, which is right off Coesit. It's where the Dells is, if you're familiar with the area. And a lot of the times, I would get invited to events or like functions at that location, and I'd hang out at his place to pregame, and then I would walk over to the party, to the event, and like. He moved years ago. He's been living in a new house, but still, like, those memories are gone. And it's not one that I ever, like, expected to be gone in the way that it is.
I don't know, man. Like, I remember there, like, White's, which is, God, I can't even remember where that is, but that is where, like, every junior and senior prom for East Providence High School was held back in my day. So, like, anybody that talked about going to prom, no matter what year you were in, you could at least all commiserate on, like, having to do the fucking journey out in the middle of nowhere to get to that banquet hall. And then the Venus de Milo was just, like, that was, like, your stock standard place for any event to happen. We had band banquets there. That's where like the teacher awards were given out every year. That wherever there would be like PTA like meetings. So basically, I'm like I'm pretty convinced that the East Providence school system there just basically had like a running tab with Venus de Milo. And like I remember like going there like years later and walking in and being hit with that kind of like those memories of like, man, I've been coming to this place for all sorts of crazy shit since I was like a little kid.
So let's just talk real quick about something important about that. That makes sense for you. That makes sense for you because East Providence to the Venus de Milo, maybe 15 minutes, maybe if you hit traffic, or if you just go up Route 6 and don't take 195, like 15 minutes is probably going to be your max min on getting to the Venus de Milo from East Providence. It makes no fucking sense that the senior supper for Coventry High School was also held at the Venus de Milo.
Did you guys just stay overnight up in Massachusetts? Like what did you do?
No, I first of all, I didn't have my license until my sophomore year of college. So I had to ride up with somebody. And like, I knew how to get there, but they didn't. So I'm like, yeah, it's pretty easy. We can get there real easy. But it's just so strange that like min 45 max an hour from Coventry to get to the Venus de Milo. Why did we have an event there? It makes sense that you had every event there, but most of our events were held at this place that is now a Dollar Tree.
This is the most Rhode Island thing that you've ever done on this
show.
Because you're like an hour to get to an event.
No, but that's not me. Come on, you know that I don't care, Sejohn. I'll drive 4 hours. Just for a steak sandwich. Like you've been in the car when I've done that.
Well, one of the weird things about being out here in Utah is like it's one of those places where it's pretty standard to have to drive at least 30 to 40 minutes if you want to go do anything fun.
Dude, it's like, crazy. Okay. And you know what's insane? Like just legit insane? That Route 1 in Warwick, Rhode Island has 3 Stop and Shops on it.
Like you could spit from one to the other.
Like it's like nowhere else is it like that. Everywhere else they put like a Stop and Shop in a sort of central location that everybody can get to. Like people are so spoiled in Rhode Island. The fact that I don't have to go more than 5 minutes to get to a supermarket, like that's not how anywhere else is. Like the design of this state is what made people the way that they are. But
I mean, it's real weird right now because I remember being in Rhode Island growing up, and even some of this was true when I was in Ohio too, is the ability to like walk to anything, and I mean anything. You want to go to a movie theater, it's a 20-minute walk. You want to go to you want to go to the grocery store, it's a 5-minute walk. You want to be able to, you could get anything you needed if you didn't have a car, for instance, right? And that's like pretty stock standard in cities, and people know that. But it's not just the city, like the state of Rhode Island is like that.
Okay, so I've been singing a lot. I've been talking a lot about singing "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley this episode, and that was with the guys that I wrote Slither with. Because I don't know, I guess Slither's always on my mind around the Halloween season because it's, kind of just the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I tried to do when I wrote that film was create Rhode Island as a town. I tried to capture the fact that the state of Rhode Island is sort of a small town and present it that way. And it's something that I'm very proud of in a weird way, because it's exactly what you just talked about. Like, everything in Rhode Island feels like it's just one big town.
Yeah. I mean, and like out here, there's just nothing in between. It's crazy how much nothing there is out here. And so we've been trying to figure out, like, we've been trying to figure out if we're going to like settle down somewhere and actually like buy a house out here, and we're not anything serious. That like we're only in the preliminary stages of looking at like, I wonder how much money you even need to do that out here, like that kind of stage. But like trying to figure that out is actually almost impossible, because we need to figure out, like, well, do we want to live in this part of the state where, like, for instance, there's a grocery store nearby, and that's always nice, but then if we ever want to go into like the city to do anything, it's an hour drive? Or do we want to live near the city so that we actually have like things to do, except that there's like no grocery stores? It's a freaking food desert, so we're gonna have to drive an hour to find foods anywhere. Like, it's I know that this is something that people have talked about in my life, all of my life, is the idea that, like, things being far away, the idea of food deserts, the idea of entertainment deserts, like there being these parts of the country that just don't have like the things that they need. And it's even more obnoxious now in COVID times, when it's like, hey, you can't go too far from your house. Well, then in that case, I guess I'm not doing anything for the next month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just nuts. It's just a crazy thing that like highlights that, like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm sorry. But it's something that I think of, and it's mostly inspired by the fact that this place that was so much of my childhood is gone, and then it's making me spiral back out to just realize how much there is around. But then you bring up Venus de Milo, and like Venus de Milo, I ate a goldfish. That's what happened at the Venus de Milo. Because at senior prom, they had goldfish in the centerpieces. And at the end of the night, I grabbed our goldfish, threw it up in the air, caught it in my mouth, and swallowed it. And it was also captured on video by the guys videographing the episode, the episode, The Prom.
Yeah.
And they included it in the video, and there was an uproar from parents who purchased and watched that video, that it included this thing that, like, honestly, it looked staged. But, like, it's just like, all right, night's over. Hand in, grab the fish, up in my mouth, down my throat.
And I created the most prestigious award for the East Providence High School band in the bathroom of the Venus de Milo.
That's incredible.
We realized there was like one kid that we all loved and was super important to us in the band, and everybody in our grade was getting like an award of some type, right? And suddenly we were like, shit, this like one kid is not. And really, out of all of us, he's like the best of us. He kind of deserves it. And so like we legit had we had a meeting in the bathroom. We were like, what are we going to do? We need to do something for him. And I there on the spot like created a certificate and like wrote up King of the Band and was like, we're giving him this. Also, I think I have a Burger King crown in my car. So like we took like a Burger King crown, turned it inside out and colored it. And like and then we made a huge fucking deal out of giving this kid King of the Band at the end of the night, because like it was important to me. And like it was important to all of us that we were like, this kid needs to get this. But I remember that, and then I found out a few years later that he had continued passing the crown down, and it had gone on for at least 2 or 3 years afterwards. Once Zach left, I don't know but yeah, it was like it was a big deal that like we needed to do something for this kid. And I remember very distinctly being in a shitty fucking fake cummerbund and clip-on bow tie in the bathroom of the Venus de Milo, putting that together for that kid.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the same. I won Homecoming King my senior year and was so disappointed that I didn't get a crown of any kind. Like, the Homecoming Queen, she gets the whole nine, but the king, he's just like some schmuck right there who's just standing on the field. And I was proud to have gotten the role of Homecoming King, to have won that role. So the next year during Homecoming, I went to the Burger King, because the Burger King in Coventry, Rhode Island is so important to the Coventry High School experience, because you can literally walk there. It's kind of the closest thing you can walk to. There also used to be a trail that like literally went from the campus to the Burger King. So we all did it. So it just seemed like the most appropriate thing. And I showed up, and on the thing, like as he was standing there about to like get given the crown, I walked up to the side of it and I handed him the crown, and he put it on and he walks down with this Burger King crown on. And the student council, who were my nemesis during high school, they were so mad at me for doing it, like for being up, for upstaging their whole event and like making a mockery of it. But then it was the quarterback of the football team that won that year. After the game, he found me and he's like, "Thank you so much for doing that, because I felt like an asshole. She got a sash and roses and that, and I'm just there. You made it feel more legitimate for me." And then that became the honor that the Homecoming King did going forward, is that the former one showed up to give a Burger King crown to the recipient of the latest Homecoming King thing. And that made me really feel good and like I started something. And that actually only ended because of that time that like 3 years after I graduated, I won Homecoming King again. Because Jason Broder thought that would be funny.
He wasn't wrong.
Well, it wasn't funny for me getting the phone call like, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm a grown man now." But yeah, it's just like I still had friends who were students, and they're like, "I don't want to vote for any of these people. I'm writing in Devon Decker. You all should too." And they did it, and I got enough write-in votes to be on the actual ballot. Like, that's where it should stop, right? That's where it should stop.
I feel like you have brought us headlong into talking the thing that we've clearly been avoiding this entire episode.
No, this was a wonderful transition point, Sejohn. I worked, and I'm very proud of myself. And it's not something that I've been avoiding. It's just something that I wanted to make sure that we had shook all of our sillies out before we got to this very important thing that we need to talk about. And I hope that you've joined us and stayed along for the ride. I imagine if you listen to this show regularly, that's what you come here for, is for the sillies and us shaking them out. But this episode drops on November 2nd, 2020. If you're listening to it on November 2nd, 2020, tomorrow is Election Day. And that's super important. November 3rd, 2020 is super important. Because right now we are living in a regime under Donald Trump as our president, and it's hard to imagine that things have only been made worse by the fact that he's the president. I can't imagine that any other president would have let it get this bad. Of course, I have the benefit of hindsight in that. I don't have any proof to support that, but I feel like he hasn't been the greatest leader during this current global crisis. Hell, he hasn't been the greatest leader during the last 4 years.
I was going to say, even before this, there might have been an argument to be made. But if anything, this last year seems to have just driven home that very point. Yeah, man.
And I know a lot of people, hopefully, like many people, you've already done your duty. You voted early. We're seeing that the early voting numbers are the highest that they have ever been. And that's fantastic. It's so good that we've already voted so that they can just tally them on the 1st, on the 3rd of November, as opposed to having to take them in and then tally them.
Especially because, by all accounts, people are going to start saying anything in after the 3rd doesn't count.
Yes.
Which is absurd and has never happened in an election in this country. It has always taken a long time. Do you know the reason why the inauguration is not until January, even though the vote is always in November, is literally so that they would have time in the past to count all of the votes. So it would give them 3 months reprieve to make sure that they had every vote counted. So the idea that a vote cannot be counted after the third is new. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Also, it is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. As long as the postmark by that date, that one makes sense. Mm-hmm. You can't be like, oh, after the fact, I'd like to vote. No, the part of the duty of voting is to make sure that you can hit this election day deadline.
Right.
And so we should probably stop referring to it as election day, but as election deadline. Like you should have voted before this date.
Exactly, because that's the other thing, is that voting has for a while been available earlier. Now, that's not true for everyone, and that's where it becomes very important that you get very familiar with your local voting rules. I, for one, being somewhat still new to Utah, only my third year here, first election here, this is all sorts of weird stuff I didn't know. Like I got my ballot maybe a month and a half ago, and I filled it out and I put it right in my mailbox. It got picked up, and then you know what Utah does? It tracks your ballot for you. You can literally sign onto a website, put in your information, and it says to you your ballot is in transit, your ballot's been delivered. So I know for a fact that my ballot, even though I mailed it in, and then I found out later that might not have been the smartest idea because I filled mine out weeks ago, I got a notification that my ballot is actually there and it's going to be counted. I know that now for sure, and that's awesome. That's fantastic. Why doesn't every state do this? I don't know.
Well, Rhode Island does it as well. I mailed mine out on the 19th, and they received it on the 23rd, and currently it just says status pending as to whether or not it has been counted because of the absurd thing that you can't begin tallying votes until Election Day.
Right. Yes. Yep.
Which I guess, it makes sense. The fact of the matter is that we look at Election Day, we look at that first Tuesday in November as such an important event, but really it's not. The important event is the inauguration on January 20th. That's the important event. Another important event is December 9th, which is the deadline for the Electoral College delegates to actually cast their vote. The fact that the election has been decided on Election Day for so many elections is actually kind of absurd based on how they structured the election in America.
Yeah.
Because every time it's usually somebody concedes, right? Votes are still being counted, but they can see the writing on the wall, and the loser, rather than, let things continue to play out, says, I concede this election to my opponent. Congratulations. And then on the Wednesday, we all know who our next president's going to be. And that's not going to happen this year. I don't want anybody to think that's going to happen this year. The only way that happens this year is if Donald Trump gets 0 votes.
Yeah. And we know that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
And it's more about don't be upset when it's not decided right away, because it's never been decided right away. And I don't know. I don't know anybody personally that ever thought it did, but apparently that is something that needs to be said.
Well, it needs to be said. I mean, oh frick, Twitter put out a whole announcement about, votes will still be coming in long after the election and being counted. So just because your candidate says that they've won, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. Find secondary sources to confirm it. And that's scary to say, but it's the truth because of the fact that we're in a pandemic and so many things are different at this election season, that you don't want to, just take everything as fact. You want to make sure that things are confirmed before you believe it. And also, the unfortunate thing about that confirmation of it is Donald Trump, if he doesn't win outright, he's going to contest the results of this election. And we're going to be looking at the 2000 election again.
Well, yeah, and this is not hyperbole because he has literally said those words, which I know in the past he has said things that have not necessarily been true, but I don't doubt these ones, like the idea that he will be taking the election results as far along in the courts as he possibly can. I don't doubt. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where I mean, Bill Maher has been saying it since 2018. He doesn't think that Donald Trump, even if he's not reelected, will go quietly into that good night. And that's terrifying to think that he might just say, no, I'm still president. Another terrifying thing is he's going to still have 2 months as president of this country.
My only reprieve, my only hope, is that he loses. It's badly enough that he can't win any type of contesting. And then what he decides to do is what he has always done in these situations when he has started to sink, is jump ship. And he just says, screw this. If you guys don't want me here, I won't be here. And just becomes the lamest of lame duck presidents for 2 months, which is like entirely possible, because if you look at his track record, as I said, like with any business of his that started failing, what did he do? He just bailed out and just left it to rot. And like that is the hopeful outcome.
That's a terrifying, hopeful reprieve, Sejohn, because we're not talking about Trump University or Trump stakes. We're talking about the United States of America.
Yeah.
And it would be awful if we were left to die on the vine for 2 months before the newly elected president can come in and try to right the ship. And also, I don't know if the GOP would allow him to do that.
Well, they would just do what they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. That's
yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be scary. But also, we've done a lot of talking about the presidential election. There are 3 branches of the government: the judicial, the executive, and I can't remember the third, and I hate myself for it.
Congress.
It's Congress, yeah, but there's a word for it, and I can't. Legislative, the legislative branch, and the fact of the matter is, we vote for 2 of those. We have no control over the judicial, as demonstrated by Amy Coney Barrett, and the fact that 38 days from the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's now a Supreme Court justice. Even though I think 38 days is more time than her in-court experience. Just truths.
These are facts.
These are facts. Sorry. But it's one of those situations where we don't just determine the executive branch, we also have a say in the legislative branch. We have a say as to who our representatives are in Congress, both senators and House of Representatives. So make sure that you're going out and voting for people that you think can make change on that level as well. Because just getting rid of Trump in the presidential office doesn't really do anything if it's still the Republicans who are in charge of Congress. Because that dissociation in Congress has been why a lot of legislation has not passed during this pandemic.
Yeah, and if you're ever feeling like Obama didn't do much as president either, keep in mind what he was dealing with the party of no. He had maybe 2 years of having Democratic control and was able to do things like the ACA, but then after that they came in and basically just stopped anything else he was doing and slowly dismantled the Obamacare piece by piece. So like do your history check on all of that stuff, guys. It's one of those things that like every election has been important. All right. And the idea of being informed for every election is important. And that means contextualizing things and historically, like looking into the history of things and all that sort of stuff. All that has always been important. I cannot stress how important it is this time.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we have fun here at the Say Report. We laugh, we joke, we watch movies like Scary Movie and just absolutely hate them and still decide to dedicate an hour and a half to them. But we're being serious right now in saying voting is a right that we are granted in the United States of America, that a lot of other people around the world do not have that right. They don't have any sort of say in what happens in their government. Things are decided about their lives, and they don't get to say it. We get to say something. So please, if you're listening to this on November 2nd and you're registered to vote, please go out and vote tomorrow. Please do your part to try to help right this ship, because nothing is going to change unless all of us are attempting to make a change for the better. And now more than ever during the COVID-19 crisis is that more apparent.
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned the fact that other countries don't necessarily have the ability to vote. I mean, we are learning in this election that people even in this own country are having their supposed right to vote questioned and challenged in ways that should never have happened. And so, like, when you go out there, like, make yourself go out there. Like, even if you're like, I don't think I will make a difference for me, you are making a difference for those people out there that don't have that voice, whether out of this country or in it. You are speaking for them when you cast your vote in the way that you feel like you're doing your best. You're doing your part to help them.
And the last thing, we've already mentioned it, but just be patient. This is not going to be something that is, I mean, hopefully it is. Hopefully we wake up on November 4th and we know what's going to happen for the next 4 years regarding our president and our Congress. But if that doesn't happen, just like I'm already exhausted with talk of the election. I'm already exhausted. But that patience to just let things happen and wait until we have a definitive answer as to who our next president is and who our next representative group is, that's going to be important. Like, I know that fatigue is already setting in, but, like, prepare yourself and stock up because, like I said, December 9th is when electoral college votes have to be cast. That's that deadline. And we might not know until the 9th of December. That's a whole other month you might not have rationed out for regarding, like, just election mind.
Yep. Whew, man. Yeah, it's a heavy one this week, guys. But you know, like the thing that should give you hope is the ability to go walk out that door and make a difference with your vote. So do it. Vote.
Cool. So, anything else that you'd like to add, Sejohn, before we send this one out to the vote?
No. Nope. You know, if you need to spend your time listening to this and our last 2 episodes about dumb movies, like as you stand in line waiting to vote, like we are here with you. There's a whole back catalog that you can listen to. We're available on Amazon now. We never talked about that.
No, yeah, we are available on Amazon. If you have Amazon Music, you can find the Say Report there. So, like, share that with your parents because that's probably where they listen to podcasts, if they even know what a podcast is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you're just getting easier and easier to find, folks.
That's true. We're very close approaching to our 200th episode, and that's not counting the 23 very special episodes. We have content. If you need friends in line, you can listen to the Say Report, and we'll try to make you laugh when we're not being serious. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can find Sejohn on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And you can find Devon at Devon D. Degger.
And Will, since you're in the future, please let us know how all this turns out. Love you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.